From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now, here's Hotline editor, John Mercurio.
Welcome to the big show, everybody. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Amy Walter. As you all know, Tommy Thompson promised a major announcement about the future of his campaign yesterday. We had just finished writing his campaign's obit when he announced that, wait for it, he's still here.
I'm still here.
All right, listen, Tommy, we didn't like it when it was called Chuck Hagel. We don't like it now.
Still, the announcement served to remind us of just who Tommy Thompson is. He's an old governor of a Midwestern state who did something with welfare once, and apparently he also revised the food pyramid.
Oh.
And Thompson is no exception. Head on, apply directly to the forehead seems to be the theme. It seems to be the theme of the week as the candidates race to define themselves before someone else did. But does highlighting one's weaknesses work for or against a candidate? Let's rank how well these candidates for president did at addressing their negatives in a way, defining themselves before their opponents define them. It's really, you know, politics 101.
It is.
That's what I've always said.
I
yes.
know you have.
Let's
so let's start with the Republicans.
Let's start with the Republicans. That's probably a good
This,
idea.
by the way, is
let's show the viewers here.
Smiley face,
viewer.
good, sad face. Not
so in other words, if a candidate did something to help themselves, they get a smiley face, and if okay, I got you. That's
so
good for me. All right, let's start with Mitt Romney, who of course created his Faith and Values Steering Committee, trying to reach out, create outreach, if you will, to the evangelical religious community. I'm going to give him up. Look, this is what he has to do. This is exactly what he has to do. It does, in some ways, highlight, you know, the fact that his Mormon faith, but he's reaching out to a community. That's his base. That's the base that he's trying to define. I'm going to say he did pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the early reviews have been okay, but I do still think there's a risk that every time he goes out and tries to talk about this, that it just keeps reintroducing the Mormon topic. And so instead of like doing faith and values, just run your campaign as a faith and values candidate rather than trying to highlight it here.
The Ames straw poll just sort of obviously diminished itself in its significance because Giuliani and McCain dropped out. But in other ways, it actually is a much more significant thing for Romney. He can't screw this up. He has to win this straw poll if he remains in it. He's got Brownback Huckabee and, as we know, Tommy Thompson still committed, all wanting to sort of knock off Mitt Romney. If he doesn't commit himself to the social conservatives in a much more aggressive way than he already has, then he's in trouble. So this is something I think he has to do.
All right, here's my favorite. Fred Thompson goes on Leno, says, "I've never craved the presidency."
Never craved it, but I'll be, you know, I'm reluctantly agreeing that if this is what America wants me to do, then shucks, I'll run for president. Yeah. But not going to really campaign because I'm lazy. Anyway, go ahead.
So was that were you in?
That was my early. It's my early Fred Thompson.
Yeah,
I'm going to work on it.
A little bit of that, but it's actually better than the guy who plays President Bush on Saturday Night Live. I think you're doing a much better job.
Thank you very much. I take that as a high
compliment.
compliment.
So it is. All right. So I think we all agree that this is the downside, right? If you're going to get rid of the
do we? I don't know. Listen, you make your case, and then
I'm going to make my case saying this is a guy. If you're going to get rid of the fire in the belly, does he have it? This didn't really help so much. You know what? Running for the Senate, doing the whole red pickup truck, and all shucks, I guess I can go to Washington and I'll be a citizen legislator and then go back.
No, that's not bad.
Doesn't that get
You're
pretty
working
good?
it pretty well. Yeah.
That works pretty well. But this is President of the United States. President of the United States.
I want
somebody who craves it.
It worked for President Bush in 2000. Look, he ran against Al Gore, and everybody loved the fact that he had not spent his entire life running for president. He'll be able to distinguish himself from Hillary Clinton, who's had the 92, 96, 2000, 2004, 2008 plan.
You know, John, I've always said about you, you have a pre-9/11 mindset.
I do. You're very right about that, and I hold on to it dearly.
All right, quickly, what do we think?
Rudy Giuliani gradually reintroducing his wife. Look, I apologize to Judy Nathan Giuliani, whatever her name is, and I know that she's probably a wonderful person. I'd love to have dinner with her sometime. That's not a date, but I'm just saying that she's probably a nice person. I think she's probably one of his biggest overall negatives. If he, moves towards the primaries, moves towards the nomination, America's going to want to know his wife. You can't sort of casually sort of bring her in and out of the spotlight. She needs to be there front and center, and she's not, and I think they're nervous about her.
All right.
Let's try to do this one.
All right.
Ron Paul goes on the Colbert Report.
I mean, it can't hurt him, right? Like, what can hurt Ron Paul?
Right.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he'll say something crazy on the Colbert Report. Boy, that would really hurt him.
I'd even put him up top. I'd put him up top.
All right, because you know what? He's like embracing it, and I think that's great. Plus, he had a very good point the other day, which is like, which all Republicans might want to take. Oh, you're just trying to hide my face? That's the goal.
No. Here, let's
okay,
do
what are
this.
you trying to do?
Between us.
Oh, I see.
So that our viewers can see our work.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so this is what you say. Agree that he made himself actually look somewhat...
It's all good for Ron Paul.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there. It's all good for Ron
The
Paul.
surging campaign.
All right, what about the Democrats?
Yes, so let's see here. Bill Richardson says for time number 676, I'm no rock star.
Yeah, I mean, listen, America knows that you're no rock star, Bill Richardson. You have an amazing resume. Say it with me now. You will be the first Hispanic governor. You're campaigning in the West. You're pitching
he was a
yourself
cabinet
as
member?
He was a cabinet member. He's
UN
a governor of a swing
ambassador?
state.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing. And unfortunately for him, the sort of star appeal that he did have coming into this campaign has been dulled, I think, ultimately by the fact that he does campaign as the sort of second tier. I'm the self-avowed second tier candidate. Stop selling yourself short and talk about your vision for America.
Exactly. That was very nicely said. Very nicely said. All right, John Edwards has shallow pocket fundraisers. Now,
This one's
there we go. This helps, I think, burnish his credentials as the populist candidate, right? I'm not there for the special interest. I'm not taking lobbying money. I go for where the regular people are, the people who can afford $15 fundraisers, and plays into that image. I think that's very smart. However, for those of us in the cynical Washington press corps who say,
of which there are many,
there are a couple in this town that say, maybe this suggests that he's just not going to be able to compete with Hillary and Obama in the fundraising race. I don't know. So
it also sort of smacks of overkill. Look, we know that we know you're sorry that you spent $400 on haircuts, but to hold these shallow pocket fundraisers and show up in jeans and an open collar shirt might strike some as a little bit disingenuous. Back to him though for a second. He kind of reminds me of Fred Thompson with his this sort of selling yourself short. I'm not craving the presidency. I'm not the rock star. Think big. That's what I say to a man like Fred Thompson and Bill Richardson.
Two big men.
Two big men need to think big.
Right.
All right.
All right. Women with needs. Hillary's got them, or
Don't
she
we
wants
all?
them. We
Hillary-
all have needs.
Who needs
Women
them?
all have needs.
As a very
I know.
smart woman once said to me, who needs whom more? Do the women with needs need Hillary, or does Hillary need the women with needs? Hillary needs the women with needs. She needs...
Wow, I had a hard time. I'm sorry, that hurt my head.
She needs women to need her as much as she needs
So
the women.
I want you to want me.
I want you to want me, so to speak. Look, polls show that the vast majority of her lead comes from the fact that she has this huge lead among women, and the lead that she needs is the lead among women.
Among women.
Nice.
All right, or does this then continue to highlight the fact that her problems among men and the big gap, I mean, it's a gender gap larger than John Kerry and other traditional Democrats have had. Does this then continue to, dog her, which is, that's fine, you can win women in this Democratic primary, but the bottom line is you can't not do better among men if you're going to win the presidency.
Probably, but I think,
Right,
look...
so where should she go?
I think she goes up top, frankly,
All right.
if you don't mind
I'm
me
not
saying.
going to put her too close to the smiley face. but in the medium.
Look, I think the only way that she can ever beat Barack Obama in a primary...
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
We have to start with the primary. Is the only way she can ever beat Barack Obama is with a huge lead among women, and that's going to be what she goes for.
So that's that.
All right, Amy Walter.
John Mercurio. Well, it wasn't all self-inflicted pain this week. McCain delivered a broadside offensive against Romney on the issue of abortion. John, did he successfully stir up enough controversy before Romney's address to the National Right to Life Convention today?
There's two ways to look at this. First of all, sure. I mean, the biggest weakness that Romney faces is his flip-flopping, and specifically on the issue of abortion rights. Pick, 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 pick. It was a small pick. He looked a little bit like an ankle
Are you saying like
biter.
pick, 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 like
Exactly.
that kind of pick?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Or like an axe pick.
Like an axe pick, sure, but both, one or the other, depending on how you look at Romney. That's how he came across, I think, to a lot of people. He was just sort of picking and needling at what everybody already knows about Romney and his abortion rights record. But to some extent, I think going into this major speech that Romney was about to deliver, it was important. It was important for McCain to point this out. On the other hand, he really, really has to avoid, what a different 6 months can make. He really has to avoid looking like the desperate candidate, looking like the person who's just sort of throwing long balls to try to defeat the person who's, or to try to topple the guy who's now the sort of early, sort of emerging frontrunner in the presidential campaign.
Yeah, in the early states. And also, you just got to believe that Fred Thompson loves when things like this happen, right?
Right,
The more
sure.
that these guys infight, the more that he gets to come in as the great outsider, riding in on his white horse, saving the party from itself, and all the infighting.
Right.
And, we saw this in Iowa, obviously in 2004, where you had Gebhardt and Dean go after each other.
Who
and
came right up the
obviously-
middle?
Who did?
John Kerry.
Yes, he did.
That's exactly
that
what
was
I'm talking
exactly
about.
Right. All right, finally today, the latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows not only Bush is unpopular, his approval rating is just 29%, but that his unpopularity is dragging the GOP down too. John, like it or not, do Republicans need to work with Bush?
Well, Amy, look, absolutely they have to work with Bush. What they need, I mean, ultimately, and this is probably the hardest and most ambitious project for Republicans going into 2008, but wouldn't it be great if I were John Boehner, or if I were Mitch McConnell, or if I were the Republican presidential frontrunner, and I had a popular president? God forbid George Bush actually rebounds in his popularity ratings. They need to work with him somehow to reshape a message, recraft an image for this president in the last, 16 months of his presidency in a way that helps him actually sort of get above 40%, get actually maybe above 50% in approval ratings, in a way that would allow him to actually campaign for people in 2008.
Well, this is what Ken Melman had talked about in the 2006 campaign, where he warned Republicans. He said, don't try to run against the brand, right? Like, we are Pepsi, and you can't run as Coke. Once you run as Coke, then nobody believes you're either one, right?
That's
so
exactly
if you're Pepsi,
right.
you're Pepsi. You got to run as Pepsi.
Right.
But the bottom line is, Pepsi right now, let's just take this completely. It's a little
Please,
flat.
keep going.
It's a little flat. How
Nice.
about that?
I like that. It's been sitting out in the sun a little long.
Yes, and that's also why I like Coke better than Pepsi anyway, because it's more carbonated. But anyway,
Sure.
the point is this, that
Pepsi's sweeter.
it is. That's also why I don't like it. But the point is that if your Pepsi is flat,
Who's Pepsi again? I forget. Just to remind our viewer.
Stop with the Pepsis. The point is this: the brand, it matters, and it's going to be very, very difficult if you're running in 2008 to get out from under the weight of the president.
Of the
what
Pepsi,
you have to hope
of the Pepsi, the president.
Of the Pepsi, the president.
Pepsi president.
Here's what you have to hope is that whoever the candidate is, your nominee is able to find that sweet spot for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That beautiful place where you're distant from the president, but at the same time you can still go back to those old school Republican credentials and hope that you can run on that instead of having to continue to defend the president.
Right, I got you. But don't you think ultimately it would actually ideally be better for the Republican candidates in 2008 if Bush was above 50%
Well, of course,
and
and wouldn't it also be
Not
if I
impossible.
had, no, it's not, but I hear the 2-minute warning.
That's what I'm talking about.
After testifying, he had a glass of wine and took at least 5 different medications on the night of his DUI arrest. D.C. Councilmember Marion Barry was acquitted this week of all charges. 1 glass, 5 different medications. Another night at John's house, huh?
Yeah, but lucky for me, my mom drives me everywhere I need to go. It's wonderful.
so
It's really nice. All right,
Still in the basement.
Caleb Wahlberg, one of Congressman Tim Wahlberg's 2 sons, made a late-night fast food run, then sped from the restaurant after crashing his minivan. Oh, so sad. Not even an SUV, a minivan, into a drive-through window. Seriously, Amy, what is it with kids named Caleb?
I mean, seriously, trouble with a capital T or C.
Oh, hey now.
Hey.
I gotcha.
In the latest filing in a nasty divorce, ex-Governor Jim McGreevey blamed his ex, Dina Matos McGreevy's poor book sales on dull writing, bad fashion sense. You know what the gays feel about the fashion sense. And her implausible claim that she didn't know he was gay. John, if this story were a Saturday morning cartoon, what would it be called?
Pathetic. All right, after President Bush's closed-door meeting on the Hill this week, Senator Bob Bennett was seen walking down the hall on the first floor of the Capitol looking dazed with blood trickling down his forehead. Who do you think took the first swing, Bennett or Bush?
I don't know, but maybe Bennett's the one who stole the watch.
Hey, nice. Good point.
All right.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. Join us next time here on Hotline TV.